project is the conservation of the biodiversity with the overall objective of their further collection and under in situ conditions that their further collection and bring a certain selection and breeding the generation of new sorts and also it's also expected to support the local breeding and as well as the diminishing the soil and land degradation and hence to support the scholars, farmers in regards to the awareness raising. As I have mentioned, there are major three components. As I have mentioned, A is to an ex situ condition, so the preservations and certainly in order to secure their wild habitat, and secondly is the collection, the gene bank, because breeders every time shouldn't go out in the field to take samplings. They should go to the gene bank to take samples. The second component is basically the diminishing, reducing the land degradation. There is also one more component that farmers as well as our in the increasing the knowledge, awareness raising of our local experts and farmers. And the third component is maintaining and building the relations with the various businesses. We would like to also include the scientific source, bring the inclusion into the breeding programs and hence further support of them selling out on the markets. There are sub-components, and the first components we have the first paragraph, the activities such as the national breeding product as well as various programs and the protection of the wild varieties that will be done by the relevant local institution, because genetic institution is an authority, is a main authority. So the national reports were drafted on biodiversity and national habitat, and by the law, once again, these are the institutions where these national gene banks have been developed under. Therefore, the MOU having signed, they will carry out this line of activities. And what kind of activities will be done? Various expeditions are expected to be organized so as to establish their habitat, whether which national breeding programs will certainly be thrashed out. And yet another issue with the National Genetic Institution, since we have the modern technologies and the assessment of the genetic variety and various establishments, therefore national breeding sources genetically are going to be provided certain technical passports. And on top of that, in this field we have the lead technology in importing the lead technologies into Azerbaijan, that we're also planning to carry out a series of events and training courses. So the international, by the virtue of inviting the various international experts, a certain assessment programs and training courses will be carried out, and this will be done together in conjunction with the various relevant agricultural institutions and Ministry of Agriculture as well. And under the second headline, we have the protection of the wild and the varieties of wild ancestors of major agricultural crops. As you all aware, this is something that is a key mandate of the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources and the Ministry of Agriculture, and many other relevant stakeholders will have to collaborate with the main ministry, but how they will carry out this cooperation based on the data to be received from the national genetic institutions, and meaning that will certainly be handed over to the Ministry of Natural Resources, and the joint conservation of certain areas will be secured. Wherever there are lots of varieties with more than 6 or 7 varieties of plants, those areas will certainly fall under the area of conservation. We will definitely would like to engage the international experts to carry out on the global level. Under the third headline, and the establishment of the field gene banks, genetic banks of their crops, in conjunction with the genetic institutions, we have the institution, the vegetable and food institution, certainly will have to do a lot given their, broad scope of the experience. And to begin with, and the crop institution, scientific, together with the relevant institution, the Shaki and Gobustan and Tartar regional, the focal points and local national breeding genetic banks will be established, which is key because therefore the assessment, their resistance to certain diseases will be assessed, and hence farmers will actually pick the most suitable and for the further cultivation. The source to be collected will certainly return back to genetic banks, and then meanwhile certainly select picked ones will be provided to farmers.